and welcome to a scene for Vampire by Gaslight. Today, Sir Trant has figured out something about some of the deaths that have been going on. Seems too close of a connection to be a coincidence. But rather than go directly to the person concerned, which might seem like an accusation, he has sought out Christian to discuss matters.
Alright, well, if you ask to see Christian, then you'll be invited to the Fortescue house and told to drop by, sent a message, and we can assume you got there safely without being attacked by werewolves, aliens, etc. And you get to the door, and you knock. A servant takes your hat and coat, and you're taken into another room, which you haven't been in before. It's Christian's parlour, and it's a lot more relaxed than the one you've been in before. There's more couches and chaise longues and armchairs and brandy glasses and cigars. That sort of seems like a gentleman's relaxing gaming room rather than, an office. And you wait for maybe about 10 minutes before the door handle turns and in steps Christian Fortescue.
Good evening.
Good evening, Sir Trant. He smiles slightly.
So, you remember the student who took a jump off the roof, right?
Christian walks to the desk and pours himself a drink and lights a cigar, offering you one. Straight to the point. Yes, I do remember that particular suicide.
Sorry about the pleasantries and everything, but given the abnormal nature of the curse, I didn't know it, but he was in your one of your sire's classes. I didn't make a connection until... You remember the night you took away that creature?
Yes.
Well, we met a man who was slowly wasting away, as if any bit of water in his body was slowly disappearing. Turns out he too is also in your sire's class.
Christian raises a brow. He sort of perches on the edge of the desk that's there, which doesn't look like it gets used for much paperwork. There's all sorts of rubbish all over it, swords and various pictures and things like that. And he leans on it and rolls up the sleeves of his shirt. He hasn't bothered to wear a formal jacket. That's interesting.
Yes, it turns out the man who jumped was third in his class. The man who evaporated, for lack of a better phrase, was second. I'm a little worried about the first in his class now.
I'm afraid I'm not privy to my sire's students or his lectures, but I don't think it would be too difficult to find out who was top of the class, so to speak. Not that they would probably believe you if you warned them, but you could do a little bit of digging, see if there's a link.
I just wanted to know, is there anyone with a vendetta against your sire?
You see a flicker go across Christian's eyes. It's a possibility. he can be forceful at times, but no one that immediately springs to mind.
Hmm. And I'm merely asking this question just because Aspie asked. I don't see him as that type of person, but maybe you do know him better than I. Do you think he would use his own students in some sort of experiment?
I'm going to have to make a manipulation subterfuge roll.
Mm-mm.
You have 4 successes to beat if you want to roll perception empathy.
Okay, 1 second. Always when I have to roll, I forget to bring it up. Yeah, that's what I thought. So 6. 1, 2. Okay.
No, I don't believe so, he says, and he seems to be telling the truth.
Okay. Well then, I assume he might have noticed the 2 students missing by now, but I feel it might be best that I tell him. But um, do you think um, does your sire do anything special with the top of his class? Give them a gift or something?
Not that I'm aware of, but I think the best point of call would be to go to the university and speak to the student body and find out if they've noticed anything different or they've seen him giving any gifts out or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt that he won't be snooping around there this time of night. He'll be elsewhere, so he's not going to catch you.
Mm.
He's not a preferential kind of man. I doubt he would be giving out gifts, but I may be wrong.
Mm. Well, maybe giving them something that he feels is uh, that would increase their usefulness to him, but maybe could be seen as a gift or a prize.
It's possible. I think
And,
that Mr. Pakula might know a little bit more, having been working at the university himself. And I'm sure that you could gain access to some of the rooms if you were really interested. See if there's anything suspicious in there. Just don't touch it if it's one of those dolls again.
yes, that would be bad. Um, well, I think I have to check on who uh, the first year is, and I'm sure you've probably thought of it by now, but the most likely suspect seems to be the 4th person in the class.
Hmm.
If you wanted to be first in the class and you couldn't do it through your studies and you didn't mind getting rid of people.
Well, it makes sense that the top students of a particular graduating year do get prominent positions in the
Mm-hmm.
medical industry. If someone was ambitious but not as skilled, they might have a motive for murder. He seems amused, like the fantasy idea of saying a motive for murder is pleasing to him. The idea of a thriller or a murder scenario, not in the killing, but in the fantasy of it, the romanticism of being caught up in a mystery.
So, well then, I guess I should dig a little bit more before I bring it to your sire.
Yes. If you want to go and talk to the students and talk to Mr. Pakula, I expect I could send Angelique with you. She's got a way of opening young men up. He grins. He goes to the door and calls for a servant. You hear him sort of talking in sort of a low, polite tone, saying, "Would you please bring Angelique downstairs to talk to Sir Trant?" And the servant says, "I'm sorry, sir. She's not here." And then Christian raises his voice very slightly. "What do you mean she's not here? Where has she gone?" "I don't know, sir." And there's an impatient sort of huff from Christian. He closes the door. "My charter has decided to disobey my orders and go about gallivanting about the town by herself. So I'm afraid that she will not be available immediately, but I will hunt her down and send her along with you, perhaps behind you."
Very good. Well then, I will be off to the university, and hopefully I'll have something to tell your sire by the end of the night.
Very good. And you will be allowed to leave. We can do a part 2 of this scene shortly after I've helped. Done some stuff quickly in real life, but we can continue this scene in part 2.
Okay.
If Deborah is amenable to that.
I can, but we could just carry on and you can go to talk to some of the students while you're doing a few things.
Yeah, Vicky's gonna come up in a minute and ask me to move stuff, and I don't want to not be able to respond.
Okay, well...
But if you're comfortable to take over...
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so Sir Trant is presumably going to try and find some students. Yes. Where is he going to look?
Well, is the dormitory separated by speciality, or as in the medical students are in a medical wing, or is it all...
You don't know.
Okay.
You know where the one from before was? So if they are sorted, you'll know which dormitory they are sorted by. But if they're not sorted, that won't help you.
Okay. Let's go to the... yes, we'll go to that dormitory and we'll ask around for the head of the class. Maybe Sir Trent is looking for maybe hiring another doctor.
Okay, so you'll go along to the university, to the dormitories, presumably. And there's not a great deal of activity going on, but you can find a few people fairly easily. There's like small groups heading off for the evening or returning from late classes. You can see some students that are carrying a particularly large, heavy-looking bag each. So they might probably be coming back from classes, and probably some of the tougher ones. But then you can also see a bunch of people, like I said, heading out for the evening.
Let's try and strike up a conversation with one of the heavy-bagged individuals.
Okay.
Good evening. Awful business about what was the one who jumped his name again?
I think we went with Mr. Jones or something.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. That guy.
Awful business about Mr. Jones. Did you have him in class?
He'll look at you a bit odd, because random people coming up asking you these questions about someone that has recently died is a bit odd. Two of them kind of just stalk off without responding, giving you a bit of a weird look. But one of the other two answers, yes. Yes, he was in some of our classes.
Well, I know he had an anatomy class and was going to be a doctor. I had hoped he would. I know he was third in the class, and I had high hopes for him. But I was wondering, do you know who the other two ahead of him were?
Well, it was Brian Wilberforce and William Peterson. I'm going to make note of those now. Brian Wilberforce and William Peterson. But Peterson's been missing a lot of class lately.
And how has Brian Wilberforce been?
He seems a little on edge, but then who wouldn't be with all of this going on?
Anyway, I would like to speak with Brian Wilberforce, maybe about his future.
Well, he didn't seem to want to talk to you. He'll gesture in the direction the other two went. At high speed.
Well, maybe I've gone around the wrong way, but maybe I can persuade him later. But do you know who
he said he was going to head to the Skiving Scholar later.
I'll meet up with him there then.
He might be feeling a bit chattier when you know,
Yes.
we haven't
yes.
just come from anatomy class.
Do you know who is the fourth in class?
Well, he's now the second in class. Because like I said, Peterson hasn't been around lately.
Right. Sorry, I forget this is a fluid position.
But yeah, I suppose Christopher Christopher Adams. I'll go with that. Christopher Adams might want to talk to you.
How's he been behaving?
Well, I don't know about you, but it's not how I'd want to go about getting up in the ranks. I'm not sure how well he's sleeping. Seems to be putting way more effort in, as if to prove that he deserves to actually have the position rather than just getting it because someone else, you know. We keep telling him he needs to be careful, have a bit more fun, but I mean, he doesn't want to go the same direction, does he? And that's so stressed that seems like the only way out.
I was going to say, did he seem okay with being fourth, or has he always tried to be one of the upper three?
He frowns because he gets kind of where you're going with that one. Of course he's tried to be in the top three. Most of us do.
Of course. I'm just saying, for some it can eat away and make them bitter, but some just try and accept if they don't.
Well, I would say Chris wasn't either of those. He didn't accept it, but he didn't want to get up this way.
Of course. No one does.
He kept pushing himself to do better. And he kept thinking he should be better than he was. But his dad's a doctor, his grandfather's a doctor, his mum was a nurse. He pushes himself.
I understand that type of family.
But like I said, right now he seems to be, if anything, working harder than ever, just to prove that he deserves to be there.
Well, hopefully he doesn't overdo it. I do like to hear when someone's pushing themselves to do better, but it can be overdone.
Yeah. Anyway, maybe you'll find him at the pub later. Not Chris, obviously, but
right.
He'll shrug and he'll head off towards the dorms.
Well, that was a little heavy-handed, but it got the job done.
Yep.
So, the place he did mention was where I have met Miss Lovelace once or twice, right?
No. Oh,
No,
yes,
that was
actually, yes. No, that makes sense.
okay.
That would be where you met Miss Lovelace the one time.
Okay. Well then, he'll
But it was a different night of the week.
right. So, Trent. Where do you go now? Well, I guess the best course of action is go to the pub and we'll see maybe we can meet this Brian Wilforce. Or Wilberforce. Hello?
That sounds like a plan.
Yep.
So you'll make your way there fairly easily.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite busy. It's busier than it was the night that you saw Miss Lovelace there. In fact, it's a lot busier than it was that night. But then these things tend to vary. And interesting thing is, as you look around trying to find this guy, you find there is actually barely a handful of girls, but one of them you recognise, and she seems to be talking to the two fellows that you saw and that ran off earlier.
Well then, I will make myself inconspicuous and just try and overhear what they're talking about, and if it doesn't seem to be going anywhere, maybe then I will help Angelique.
Okay. Angelique and the guys seem to be discussing various night spots and things that that the scholars tend to do to decompress, to relax after a busy week. This being a Friday night in character, it is pretty busy in here. So, yeah, they're discussing various different places, and they seem to hit on one that might be of interest. Especially given the things that you have heard lately. It's called the Viper's Nest.
Oh.
And from what you can overhear, it is a invitation-only gentlemen's club of some repute. It is very exclusive, very difficult to get an invitation to. But they heard that a couple of weeks back, the fellow that jumped, he went there. And he was raving about it the next day. Absolutely wonderful, apparently. And Brian confidentially mentions clearly trying to show off to Angelique that he's even been given an invitation. The others are all looking very jealous. Not only because Angelique is kind of sat next to him and talking to him, but also this invitation. They figure he's probably made some important friends somewhere. I will be right back if you don't mind. I just have to dash and do something.
Okay. Lisa, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Lisa, I guess you can play the bartender or one of the waitresses.
Yep.
I am going to take out a little slip of paper and write on it, take young Brian Wilberforce to a secluded location, please. Sir Horace, signed Sir Horace Trent.
Okay.
And then I'll write under it, P.S. This is an urgent, life or death matter. Alright. I'm going to fold it up and
Yeah.
I'm going to try and get it passed to Angelique.
Well, are you tipping the bartender, or are you buying a drink, or anything like that?
I'm going to tip the bartender quite well.
Okay. He's a rarity. He's a working class man that can read. So he looks at you a little bit strangely when he reads the note. But it's really none of his business right now. And he walks over and gives Angelique the note, and then comes back.
So, seeing as I missed that section, what did the note say?
Please take young Brian Wilberforce to a secluded location, signed Sir Horace Trent. P.S. This is a matter of life and death.
She will skim read this note, crumple it up, give a wry smile to the others. Some gentlemen don't even introduce themselves and think that I'm interested in their address. Nobody chuckles all around. I don't suppose you'd care to escort me to that little establishment? I must admit to some level of curiosity. And I'm sure they won't object to you bringing someone along.
I'm sure the students and the gentlemen are quite eager to take her there, because who knows where the nights might lead after some alcoholic beverages and enticing arrangements and a gesture of an offer to an exclusive nightclub. So they agree. And they're finishing their drinks. Let's go now. Let's check this out. Let's do it.
Oh dear.
And Angelique will leave the establishment arm in arm with Brian. Yeah, what does Sir Trant do?
Well, he's going to follow, trying to be inconspicuous.
It's the location of this particular bar is out of the way. It's not in a rundown part of the town. It's in a quite nice area, but it's down a side street. It's one of those establishments that has a heavy-looking door with a sliding panel in front of it, and only a little light on the outside to indicate its presence at all. The light happens to be red.
Before they get there, So Trent is going to come up to Angelique and go, Miss Rosemont, it is wonderful to see you.
Good evening, Sir Trant. What a surprise.
No, the pleasure is all mine. And who is this young man with you? A budding suitor?
Mr. Wilberforce is showing me the way to a rather interesting nightclub. I've been quite curious about it.
Oh. This would happen to be the Viper place I've been hearing about.
Now, Sir Trant, you know that's highly exclusive.
Yes, it is. I heard one past person who went there went mad.
How terribly scandalous. But I'm certain that if we were on our way there, a gentleman of your esteem would already have an invitation.
Yes, I should.
She's kind of giving Brian the chance to pop himself up a bit and go, yeah, I'm a big man.
This Brian gentleman does indeed look at Sir Trant, and doesn't exactly raise his eyebrow, but sort of quirks very slightly. It's an extremely exclusive bar, so I don't think you'd have an invitation.
And I'm wondering how or why you got an invitation.
Because I'm a young and interesting and upcoming man of repute and wealth. And he sort of gives you one of those sort of up and down looks that sort of says silently, "And who are you?" But say that out loud.
Well, I hope you don't do anything that may bring you to harm, like William Peterson or Mr. Jones. And with that, he'll slip away, but only so far so he can come back and hide.
Before he sort of tries, he stares at you and he says, "Was that a threat, sir?"
A warning.
He's looking quite annoyed.
Come now, Brian. We don't really have much more to talk to Mr. Trant about.
He curls his lips slightly in annoyance, but follows along after Angelique.
And she'll whisper to him that Sir Trant is an old suitor that she spurned. Which would explain some of the tension going on.
He seems pacified by this, the fact that you said he was an old one, not a current rival. And carry along to the club. And you're attempting to hide from them, Sir Trant.
Alright.
So you need to use obfuscate, I presume.
No,
Or are you stealthing?
Yeah, I'm going to blood buff my dex a little, and you can still use skills without actually having dots in them, right?
You can't use the skills, you can make a roll.
Right.
You just use the attribute trait if you don't have the skill.
Okay.
At a slightly increased difficulty.
Blood buff it 2, so I'll get 4 dice. Oh, son of a...
Is that a botch? No.
No, that is a fail.
That's just fail. Okay, so you think you're being really stealthy, but you're not. And it's not botchy obvious, you're not falling over things. But your footsteps are, reasonably loud. And Angelique is aware that you're there, certainly aware that you're there. And a couple of the gentlemen are as well. But they're getting quite close to the door now.
Yeah, they're probably making little jokes to themselves about Sir Trant at this point. So, presumably they have very little difficulty getting in, considering one of them is a target.
The door slides open. Well, the door hatch slides open. Someone on the other side looks and asks for an invitation, which I presume that Brian has. Mm-hmm. He hands it over, and then the door opens, and they are let in.
And she's going to I'm thinking larceny roll, actually. She's going to disguise it with a bit of daring flirtation with the muscular doorman. But she's going to try and pinch the invitation and throw it back out into the gutter.
Okay. Bit tricky.
But if he's been putting other invitations down to the side, it's possible she'll steal one of those instead. It's a bit easier.
Okay, we'll see.
Okay.
Are you distracting enough?
Am I distracting enough? Right. So I need to bring up Angelique's sheet, which I forgot to do earlier. Which I should have done earlier, but I forgot to. What do you want me to roll?
Dex larceny, or... Yeah, that's probably the best roll.
Dex larceny. Difficulty. Or shall I roll the manipulation subterfuge to lower the difficulty or something?
That sounds good.
Make a seduction roll first. So either charisma or appearance subterfuge, depending on how you're doing it.
Appearance subterfuge it is.
And you have a speciality in appearance,
Yes.
which gives you 5 successes.
Oh, 1 second. Keep going about.
And so that succeeds. Now make your larceny roll.
Reduced success. Reduced difficulty.
Yeah, you can have 2 successes there.
Excellent.
The doorman is very distracted by you. He nods the other guys in. Goes, yes, okay, come in. Doing his sort of stern, unfriendly doorman routine that all doormen do. And then when he sees Angelique, his eyes sort of light up. And there's a little sort of smile on his face and he says, well, hello. Haven't seen you here before.
Well, I've been hearing all the chatter, and I rather thought it might be worth my time to look into it. Full on with the eyelash fluttering. And
Yeah, he's sort of looking at you kind of intently. Because it was an appearance subterfuge rather than a charisma one, so it's not really a conversation. It's more he's distracted by your appearance.
Yep.
Your physicality. So he does look at you quite intently and just sort of gives you a sort of a smirk and a up and look down before letting you through. Completely distracted by you, so you're able to take the card.
And throw it out onto the street.
Yeah.
Where Sir Trant may or may not find it.
So Sir Trant. When you come up to the street, if you are actually going up to the street, you can make a perception investigation roll.
Okay. Oh dear goodness. What happens if I don't have investigation?
Just roll perception.
Okay.
You can probably throw alertness. If he's been trailing us, which he has.
Okay, perception alertness.
See her actually throw it by the light of the door.
Fair enough, yeah. Perception alertness.
Okay, and with aspects, that will help also.
Half the difficulties if you're using it.
Uh-huh. So, 1, 2?
Yeah, 2 successes.
Okay.
So, yeah, you see the card that's been thrown out on the... You watch it do a little tumble towards the ground before the door shuts, and it's been lit up by the red light.
Okay. I'll pick up the card, flick anything that may have fallen on it, and look over the card.
It just says the Viper Room and like members only, and it's like a membership card basically, but it doesn't have any identification on it.
Very good. He's going to take the card and bang on the door.
The slide slides open. You can see a pair of bushy eyebrows and heavy-set brown eyes staring at you.
He'll hold up the card.
You hear a bolt unlock the door, and the doorman opens the door for you and lets you in.
All right.
It's quite dim in here. Smell of cigar smoke, cigarettes, velvet leather, that sort of thing, and it's this kind of sight you're greeted by. It's quite opulent, quite very red, and quite alluring in its decor and demeanour. There are tables set up where people are drinking and smoking. There's a stage, which is currently vacant.
Mm-hmm.
And there are ladies in corsets and not much else, walking around, handing out drinks, talking to the customers. You don't get the feeling that this is a brothel, but it's somewhere on the very border of it. There are posters around for famous burlesque performers of the time. It looks like a burlesque club, dance hall, gentleman's club. And there are, other than Angelique, there's one woman in here. And she looks like, let's just say she's not effeminate.
Okay.
She's dressed as a man, but it's quite obviously a woman.
Okay.
Nobody in here appears to be on the poor side. Everyone's wearing very rich-looking clothes and flashing money around.
All right. I'm going to do one thing. Now I've taken this in and stuff. I'm going to use Auspex Aura Perception. How many people in here look like they might be vampires by their auras?
Make that roll. Perception, empathy, difficulty 8.
Right. 6. Oh, son of a...
Which I think is annoying as difficulty for a discipline, but that's what the rules say.
Well, you are the ST. Yeah, the auras just aren't coming together at this moment.
There's a lot of people and they're sort of blurring together right now, and you can't really get a clear signal from anybody. Maybe you could try again in a second. A young, attractive woman comes up to you and says, "Good evening, sir. Can I offer you a drink?"
No, but a smoke wouldn't be unwelcome.
She takes out a silver case, and there's a selection of cigarettes and cigars in there which you may pick from.
I'll just take one and light it and such.
As soon as you put it in your mouth, she takes a lighter from inside her, a set of matches even, because there aren't lighters. A set of matches from inside her corset and lights it for you, giving you a seductive look as she blows out the flame and torches off to see to somebody else.
Do I notice Angelique in the room?
Yeah, she stands out because she's not. Yeah, she's the most attractive person in the room. She's appearance 4, I forget. And most people are about appearance 3 in here. And also, she's one of the only 2 women that don't know they work in here. So.
Okay, so I will sneak, or not sneak, but go down and sit at a table kind of in earshot.
Okay. Are you sneaking or are you just walking down there?
Let's say I try and go down like I'm one of the crowd.
I think discreetly walking.
Yeah.
That's the word.
Okay. I think if you want to make a roll, you can to notice. But the students, the gentlemen are quite enwrapped in their conversation and with the surroundings to be bothered to be looking around for Sir Trant.
No.
Yeah.
But Angelique may notice him. As she's used to this sort of environment and doesn't really overwhelm her.
Right.
Not to mention she knows that he'll have an invitation to get in.
Yeah.
Perception,
So-
alertness?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, right, for her.
No, watch. I do not see Sir Trant.
You're too busy talking and focusing on what you're doing to notice him.
I will be keeping a very close eye out for anyone that approaches Brian.
Okay.
As will I.
One of the cigarette/waitress girls does approach the table and takes people's drink orders and offers them cigarettes and cigars. And they all take pretty hefty, big cigars because you know what guys are like.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to smoke the biggest possible cigar in this scenario to look like a man. Yeah, they're all smoking away at the cigars and chatting. And about a little time passes by. Occasionally the waitress will come over and check for your drinks and anything else. And if nobody else sort of does anything in this time, then the main performance will begin.
Excellent.
Alright.
Up on the centre stage, some music begins to play. With a man, there's a very I actually can't remember the character whether the dictaphone has been invented at this point. I don't think it has. So there'll be live music. Someone will play the piano. And
The gramophone has, but it's not very common, and a piano is more likely.
yeah, so there'll be a piano. Someone playing the piano, and now Angelique has competition for the most attractive person in the room. As this olive-skinned beauty emerges onto the stage and does a very enthralling burlesque act. And Angelique will have to make a self-control roll because she's a toreador.
Yes.
Or is it willpower? Willpower, isn't it?
1 second, I'll look
I
it
think it's self-control roll, and if you fail it, you can spend a willpower.
Okay.
I think.
1 second. Corridor. Self-control, instinct roll, different roll D7. Failure means until the base player cannot attack them. Yeah, if she fails it, she's entranced or enraptured.
Self-control then.
Yeah.
Yep.
2 successes.
Okay.
I am so glad I bought high self-control.
And she does a very appeasing, very enticing dance with what seems to be green flames licking her body, rolling over her arms. It's a very elaborate magic trick. Not many people have seen this kind of thing, and people are entranced themselves and enraptured by it and excited by it, and they hold off clapping until the very end. But you can see people want to clap all the way through, amongst other things, I presume. Are either of you doing anything?
Angelique will be both keeping an eye out for anyone that tries to use the distraction to possibly do something to Brian. But will also be wondering about those flames.
Sir Horace is going to try that aura perception around the room again.
Okay.
I said that was 6 dice last time, right? Let's just double check. Yep. Let's see how I do this time, huh? 1.
Oh.
Well, 1 success. So I can at least tell if anyone's a vampire in the room, I think.
The woman on stage has a very pale aura.
Okay.
And it's quite obvious that Angelique's a vampire.
Right.
But you already knew that.
Would I happen to get any pale blotchies, as in any ghouls?
Not with the 1 success.
Okay.
Everybody else looks reasonably bright to you.
Okay.
In comparison to the other 2 at least.
Alright then.
And clever Deborah is clever player. And therefore she can make a perception alertness roll. Well, I just made that roll. I didn't want to roll high for that. I didn't want to roll high for that. I want to fail. You do not notice what happens.
Okay, but unless they're using obfuscate, I probably do notice that they are there, just not what they've done.
Yeah, you notice during the performance, the waitresses carry on coming by, and people at your table order drinks and cigarettes. More accurately, cigarettes at this point. But you don't notice anything untoward.
Okay.
And the performer finishes her act to raucous applause. And the piano player tries to get some of that applause, but people aren't hearing it. And he looks disgruntled and goes to the bar and has a big drink. Why do I even work here? Fuck's sake. Oh yeah, naked women. And everything sort of dies down for a minute until there's some banging coming from the main door, which is loud enough to be heard over the general chatter.
Uh-oh.
And a couple of the girls don't go up and investigate, but you can hear raised voices. And it's distracting for some people. Some people are sort of standing up and trying to see what's going on. And the barmen are looking particularly displeased.
I'm going to roll perception alertness to try and tell what the yelling's about.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Okay,
6.
all the successes, you can hear everything. You hear that the argument is the bouncer saying you are not a member, you cannot come into this club, and the person whose voice is very familiar on the other side of the door saying, you will let me in or I will burst through this door. Your choice.
Uh-oh.
Can I hear that person?
Yeah, you can make a roll as well. Trant got like 1,000 successes. You also need to check your PMs.
Okay. Okay, I will make my perception awareness roll. With 3 successes, I should at least be able to recognise who is shouting.
You can hear Christian's voice.
I was going to say.
In an argument with the bouncer. Which started off reasonably civil and is now getting violent.
Excuse me, gentlemen. And she's going to make her way towards the bouncer at the door.
Sir Trent is going to watch Mr. Brian Wilforce very closely.
He finishes a cigarette and a sip of his drink, which is sort of halfway down at this point.
Okay.
And he's looking around, seeing where Angelique is going. He's just sort of curious. He doesn't get up to follow her. Right now, at least.
Angelique is going to go and talk to the bouncer, and in a sweet, pleasant voice, she's just going to ask, why don't you just let him in? And surprisingly enough, there will be dominate behind that phrase.
Okay.
Yay.
Yay!
Yay, dominate.
Which is manipulation leadership, isn't it?
Yeah, against target's willpower, which is 3 in this case.
So 5 dice, difficulty 3. I don't think this will be hard.
No, I don't either.
3 successes.
He stares blankly at you as he is dominated, and opens the door. Just sort of like zombie-like reaches down for the door and opens it. Is sort of entranced, and he leaves it. Has the door open because he didn't tell him to close the door.
He'll probably he'll wake up shortly and realise that he probably wants to close the door.
Yeah. For the minute,
she'll let Christian poke him. She's headed back towards the table already.
Oh, this is not the right picture, actually. A different picture, but Christian walked into the room. He's got kind of a pretty annoyed look on his face as he comes down the little walkway into the club and looks around. And people are staring because they're wondering what all the bloody noise was about. Ruining the climax of the fucking thing. Ruining the climax of the game. The performance. No, it's not going to work. I'll have to use that one. Sigh. But he is carrying a cane, and he has it as pictured in that picture, which I wanted to use, but this camera's a dick. He has it sort of up on his shoulder, as opposed to using it to walk. And he doesn't storm down. He walks very slowly, was purposefully slowly through the crowd. towards Sir Trant. And those green eyes of his fixate on Sir Trant, who I presume is still watching the student.
Yes. Although I think I give him a sidelong glance, like, oops.
So nice of you to inform me of the whereabouts of my child, Sir Trant. He says quietly, presuming you're sitting on your own.
He'll motion to a chair next to him and be like, Angelique happened to be conversing with the individual that I suspect will be next, and she seemed to think it was a good idea to come here instead of taking the individual to a safe location.
I'm sure she did.
Although, hopefully, we'll notice if he gets marked or hexed or anything. Oh, and one of the performers here is one of our, or cut of our jib, as it were.
Oh, really?
Yes. I believe Angelique was quite taken with the performance, but she was able to not go too goo-goo eyes.
Well, I'm sorry I missed the performance, but let's not arouse too much suspicion by acting out now. We can always return to the establishment at a later date once we've consulted some of the others.
Yes. Although now that I've heard this establishment's name, I'm thinking something here is the individual, not the fourth student. He seems kind of not the one to be that ambitious, as it were.
He
And
nods.
while we're talking, what is Brian doing?
Brian is looking over at this man that's just walked in, curiously, and he says to Angelique, "Do you know that? Do you know that man?"
He's my cousin. Bit of a temper.
Oh. You seem to know a lot of dangerous men, he smirks.
Yes, well, you could say I have something of a taste. And she'll smirk right back.
He gets this sort of look in his eye that's like, I wonder what I could do to prove that I'm dangerous.
But I am the big bad boy.
But luckily, or unluckily actually, for him, Christian's going to make his way over to the table.
Oh God.
And he looks at Sir Trant like, he doesn't sort of just walk off rudely. He just sort of give him a quick nod, and before walking over to the table, and he puts his hands on the back of Angelique's chair and looks down at her and looks around at the table around him, and so I do apologise, gentlemen, but it appears that my ward has escaped the nest.
Cousin Christian, you know that I am old enough to decide for myself where I should like to spend my evenings.
You should like to spend your evenings with a suitable husband, which you won't find by coming to these dens of iniquity.
One never knows what one might find. In any place. She'll smirk.
Here merely a bad reputation. A reputation that I would not see carried on to our family name. Now, if you may, if you will, come with me.
She rolls her eyes, heaves a big sigh, which will probably in turn set off a small trickle effect of sighs, given the corsetry involved, and will make her way to stand.
And Brian will stand as well. That's his name, right? Brian.
Yeah.
And he stands, and he's had a couple of drinks at this point. Plus what has just been said, he's feeling quite brave.
Oh dear.
Christian's not the biggest man in the world. He's quite slight and athletic. You know, he's not overly physically imposing, nor is he particularly tall. And he thinks, I could probably handle this guy. So he stands up and he says, "The lady doesn't want to leave, and you have no right to remove her. We're having a good time." And Christian's eyes sort of flicker back to this young gentleman, and not knowing at all who he is.
Sir Trent is going to try to get his indication, like, he is the one. Like, shake his head. Like, but no, not like.
Okay, make a I'm just gonna give you that 'cause it's funny.
Okay.
I'll make myself a perception alert this check because
Okay.
to see whether I notice you or not. I do notice. I've got Auspex. Yeah, I do notice, and Christian sort of his gaze gets a little bit less intense, only a fraction, and he looks down at this particular man and looks up at him and he goes, "I do not really think that you are in a position to stop me, but do try if you are feeling particularly brave." I'm going to go roll a charisma intimidation on that. Unless this guy's beating his... He's got courage 2, I'm guessing, as a human. Nope, he fails his courage. So,
Usually he has courage too.
this guy sits back down. He sits his ass right down. And he cowers his head. Perhaps a little bit of pee came out.
Ow.
And he just buries his head, not wanting to be in that fiery gaze any longer. And Christian will start to lead Angelique out. Oh, and he looks over his shoulder at Sir Trant, like, "Are you coming?"
Sir Trent is going to go over and tap Brian Wilberforce on the shoulder and be like, "I think it is time for people like you to go home." And I'm going to use dominate as well.
Okay.
And it's not going to be too, like, obvious. It's just like, I'm just giving him some fatherly advice. Which would be, what did we say? Manipulation?
Yeah.
Leadership? Okay.
Manipulation leadership, I think.
Okay. That's... Oh. Five dice.
I will so laugh if he somehow manages to fail with difficulty 3 and 5 dice.
No, he's passed.
3 dice.
Okay.
3 successes.
Brian's gonna get up and leave.
Okay, and then Trent is going to go out with Angelique and Christian Fortescue.
His friends also leave. They're like, well, maybe we're a little bit too big for our boots in this sort of club. But yeah, they head off with him and they try and catch up with Brian. He's walking quite fast in the opposite direction. And the bouncer's still got the door open. He sort of eventually comes out of the little trance and closes it behind you, almost forgetting that any of you were ever there. So, what is Angelique doing when she gets outside? Being annoyed, I imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And Christian's not saying anything, he's just sort of marching her towards the carriage.
If you two will excuse me, I find myself rather peckish. And she's going to walk right past the carriage.
I do not have dominate. But I'm going to try and use presence at an increased difficulty because you're pissed off at me.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. Well, I've got one success.
I do not think that will be enough.
As he says, I really wish you would come with me so we can discuss this. And for a second you feel, well, maybe I should. But then you're like, nah, fuck that.
Yeah, and she will spin on her heel, glare at him extra hard because she knows full well what he's just tried doing.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm sure we can discuss it where I want to go.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Yeah, he looks back at Sir Trant. You know, have you ever been on a night out where a guy and his girlfriend are having an argument and your friend just sort of looks at you like, I'm sorry, dude, but I kind of just don't know how to handle this right now.
Yeah.
It gives you one of those expressions that's like, I'm sorry, but I have to run. And, like, does a little shrug and heads off after Angelique, which is where I think we can close the scene unless you're going to do anything else.
Is
Well,
Trant going to follow them?
yeah, I was going to say...
Are you going to follow them?
Yeah, if they're ready to talk about this, I do kind of want to discuss this with Christian.
Okay. So, Christian, where is Angelique going?
She's just going to find her way probably back to the Skyping Scholar because they're not that far from there.
Mm-hmm.
But just to a pub where she can get a snack and where she can breeze past the bouncer a lot easier than Christian can.
Okay.
She might aim for one that's likely to have a little bit of a queue, but not too much of a queue.
Okay.
Because she doesn't want him actually stuck outside, because he'll get pissed off even more and cause more trouble. But
we'll see how lucky he is.
Just enough to annoy him slightly.
We'll see how lucky he is. So you find a pub and there's a little bit of a crowd outside. It takes a couple more seconds to get in than it normally would. And you're able to go inside and it's busy, full of people drinking. And Christian gets up to the door. He tries to push past some people, but they aren't having any of it and push him back. So he's stuck outside for a little bit longer than you are. What do you want to do inside?
She's going to find herself a meal.
Okay, so you're doing a seduction roll? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. Appearance subterfuge, I think.
Mm-hmm. 2 successes. Shouldn't be too hard.
Yeah, it's fine. You can encourage a gentleman or lady, depending on what your preference, this particular night, and into the back of the pub, where it leads out onto the alleyway, and where people go to the bathroom because flushing toilets are a luxury thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know it's gross, but so you can go and do that. And how many points of blood are you taking?
She's only going to take the 1. She more just didn't feel like being told to go home like a child. It's like, I'm going to go do something else.
This person thoroughly enjoys being bitten, as most people that get bitten,
Mm-hmm.
and feels like they had a very good time in the back alley with you.
And she's just going to head back inside the pub and find a table.
Is Sir Trant following into the pub?
Yep.
Okay, so Christian, by this point, Christian sort of got in.
Mm.
He's still pushing through a little bit, and people are giving him slightly annoyed looks because he's been quite rude outside, and nobody likes that sort of shit.
No.
And he comes down and sits down at the table and fiddles with his hair because it's come out of place. Am I going to be chasing you all around the city all night?
I don't believe so. What was the huge rush to break into that den of iniquity?
I just don't understand why you're being so defiantly obstinate.
She's going to raise an eyebrow.
You've only just recovered from serious injury, and now you're heading out into unknown dangerous locations, unescorted, with, anything could have happened to you. Again.
Trant was there.
By chance.
He was following us before we even arrived at the place.
It is true.
In fact, I took some trouble to ensure he might be able to find a way inside.
I suppose you'd rather have Sir Trant defending you than me, he says, because he has the jealous flaw. And he's going to have to make a self-control roll.
Oh dear.
But luckily he has a lot for that.
Angelica's going to look like she's considering it.
Oh,
One success. Luckily I rolled 1 success.
Yeah, she's going to look like she's considering it. And then she's just going to comment, do you think you would have let me go there if I had brought you along?
If you had brought me along? Yes.
Really? Because lately you seem to be entirely determined to forget that I had any kind of social life before this.
It's a new city, and there are dangers around every corner.
and there aren't for you.
I can. He does that sort of face that someone says when you've got me there. But as I'm willing to relent at this point, I'm capable of defending myself. You know that.
The icy look he gets with that comment is, let's just say that Sir Trant is probably shivering right now.
It's my job to keep you safe. How am I supposed to do this when you don't communicate with me?
It is my job to enjoy my unlife. How am I supposed to do this if you persist in being a wet blanket?
I'm not being a wet blanket.
I learned an interesting new dance move. She's gonna comment quite calmly, just like an idle comment while sipping her drink and looking around at the various people wandering past.
Is Sir Trant saying anything?
I was trying to say, what is what would be a composure roll? Self-control?
To hide your humour would be manipulation subterfuge.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's basically like lying with your face.
Well, it's not so. It would be. It's a mix between that and oh my god, I just got that comment and it's so dirty. Oh dear.
You fail.
I think Christian notices the bug-eyed look on Sir Trant's face at that comment.
Like, oh my goodness, his eyebrows went through the roof.
Christian looks exceptionally annoyed again because he feels ridiculed.
He's going to interrupt the couple and just go, please, ladies and gentlemen, I believe it would be best to discuss maybe the danger to that young man and possibly to your sire, or to your father, as it were.
He does have a point.
Apparently, I'm incapable of protecting anyone these days. So why should I care about the dangers to others? He says dramatically.
Never said incapable. Overzealous, perhaps.
Sir Trent is going to use is manipulation, or would charisma be more acceptable to bring up the fact that he rightly trounced that monster that was attacking?
Charisma.
Alright. Not something I have in it, but it's still 5. I'm going to, with doublespeak, of course, bring up the fact that you trounced that danger.
You also have enchanting voice, so.
Yeah,
You have enchanting voice. It lowers your difficulty. You have successes there.
1 or
5 and 6 success.
And I also have a 1. So
Oh. Christian sort of nods. I suppose that the recent chaos and danger has put me in a heightened state of overprotectiveness.
yes, while it is important to enjoy one's life, it is also important to be cautious with one's life. So I believe both of you have made very keen points on our better and our better individuals for those points. But let us speak of the bigger situation here.
Angelique is going to smirk at that comment because she knows very well what Sir Trant is doing.
Anyway, the boy, it seems, was not affected in the Viper's Den this evening, but one of the individuals was of our kind.
I don't feel that we can carry on this conversation in depth in this environment, but I trust you both to carry on this investigation as you have started it now, and I will take a back seat and you may report to me what you find out and enlist any others that you wish to join in, particularly Mr. Pakula, because I think that he will have more inside information on the medical students themselves.
Yes.
Particularly as he's been associating with Brian.
Yes. But I'm trusting you both to carry out this task. And I will not interfere any longer if you promise me that you will be careful. He says more directly to Angelique.
Of course. And if Angelique does happen to go to the Viper's Den again, and we do expect trouble, we'll at least, if we do not bring yourself, we'll at least bring Floki along.
How comforting.
Do you truly think that Floki would stand the slightest chance of fitting in there?
Well, I was going to say, if we plan on doing something rather rash and extreme, I don't think we'll have to worry about people fitting in, if you know what I mean.
Right. Well, thank you ever so much for talking for me about my intentions regarding caution.
Huh?
I am merely trying to facilitate a happier day for you, or a happier night for you both.
Well, for the best now, I think it's good that I retire. I will see you when you get home later, and I will be in touch, Sir Trant.
Of course.
I don't believe there's anything else we can do on the matter tonight.
Yes, you were right. But tomorrow night we may want to inform Mr. Polka that he should keep a close eye on his associate, and maybe look him over if he can do such a thing.
I'm sure between myself and Mr. Polka we can find out as much as we like about our dear friend.
Very good. Anyway, I guess we will see Mr. Polka the next evening then.
Yes, and please, Sir Trant, do remember that when conversation is going on between myself and my sire, it is between myself and my sire. And my caution is my prerogative.
I am sorry, it's just I can sense quite a temper. And, anyway.
Passion runs in our family.
It is true.
I do appreciate the intent behind the gesture, though.
I will try and keep myself from falling to my intents, even though how good they may be for you. Anyway, let us say good evening and think on the matter no more.
Good evening, Sir Trant.
Good evening.
And she will make her way out. And there the scene will end.